Last week on Gleeboot, it was the Corey Monteith tribute episode. We had some amazing performances from Leah Michele and Naira Rivera, and they bullied Tina, as in Ryan Murphy and the writers did. And I guess that's what you missed on Gleeboot.
Gleeboot.
Welcome back to Gleeboot, the show where we get drunk and talk about rebooting Glee one episode at a time. I'm Cullen.
Alyssa.
And I'm Hannah.
And today we have a special guest, a dear friend of both me and Alyssa, Cala.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yay.
Thank you, guys. I gotta say right off the bat, my biggest thing through this episode was I did not understand the binary of a Katy or a Gaga.
No, it does not make sense.
We're all on the same page.
And I kept expecting I've seen enough Glee that I know they usually have their little special wrap up thing at the end, and I kept expecting there to be some kind of explanation about why. I don't know, just none of it.
And then the episode went doo-doop, 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 doo-doop.
Oh, that's the end.
Cool.
Yeah.
No explanation.
So I'm actually in Michigan right now for my grandfather's funeral. And so there are a couple things I wanted to share. One is an inspirational thing because we were just talking about this garbage TV show. So here's some little bit of light for you. And then the fact that I had to talk about Glee at my grandfather's funeral. So my aunt from my other side, my dad's side of the family was there, is my mother's father that died. And she was asking about what I'm doing in LA and stuff. And I mentioned that I podcast. She's like, oh, what's it about? And I mentioned it was Glee. And she's like, oh, I used to love that show. And she was like, those slushies, that's crazy. They're going out and just slushying someone. And I was just like, what is my life that this is happening? And then a really sweet thing is that my grandpa was struggling in hospice for a while, and the nurse was like, I think he needs to see one more person. And because they hadn't been bringing my grandma around because she has dementia and they weren't sure how she would react, but they brought her around, and he reached out for her hand because he wasn't speaking or anything at the time, and they held hands, and then he died a little bit after she left. And so the priest in his sermon he talked about Princess Bride and true love, and how they had a true love that last beyond death, like my grandparents. It was really sweet. So love is real, as long as you're not Jake and Marley.
Yeah.
You guys, here's something. At one point I did get so angry at this episode that I shut it off and had to take a beat. I'm gonna let you guys figure out what could have possibly made me so angry.
I think
I had to take
ideas.
24 hours to finish the episode.
Amazing.
Yeah. So Cala, you have a special backdrop on your Zoom. What is it?
I do. It is a quote that I found on the internet that someone just posted. Watching Glee in recent years will just make you go, I never thought representation could feel this much like I'm being called a slur. Which I do feel like is sort of the creative thesis of this show.
Yeah.
I did text my friend Laura as I was watching it, and I was like, I think this show might have single-handedly set gay rights back. I think if Glee had not aired in 2012, we would have gotten gay marriage 2 or 3 years sooner. I do believe that.
Someone in the voting booth was just I could vote for this person who supports gay marriage, but that fucking Kurt guy is so annoying.
Yeah. Whatever they're positing, I don't want to legalize any of that.
Yeah. He doesn't deserve rights.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Glee.
Yeah. So Cala, what is your journey with the show Glee?
I watched the first two. I think what is the season basically where I think it's maybe season 2 or 3, but it's where Santana and Brittany are together, but then they like start having problems. I don't remember if they break up. Basically, I watched it when it aired, like I think the first 2 seasons, and then those were my like favorite couple and like my favorite characters. And then when they started fighting, I was like, well, now there's nothing in the show for me. And I just quit watching.
Oh wow. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's valid.
Yeah, and then I have not seen it. So I saw, you know, I guess I was like, definitely I saw the first 2 seasons. Then I had not seen like a single episode past that until I just dropped in season 5.
Oh, this is gonna be fun to hear you like what you think about some of these new, very new characters to you.
Very new. Well, my number one thing was whoever the 2, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know any of the new characters' names, but whoever the new 2 cheerleaders are, I do feel like they just like tried to recast Diana Agron and I forget the Santana actress's
Naya
name,
Rivera,
but
yeah.
Naya Rivera, yeah. Like they literally were just like, let's find some younger looking clones of these 2 women.
Yeah, that's valid.
So it's Lil Diana, Lil Santana.
But like worse versions of their characters.
Yeah.
Even though like Quinn's writing got real dicey, but it's still like very little extra dimension to them.
Right. Is she still like in the show?
Not
Or has she
really.
been-
I think
okay.
she shows up later this season.
She like exists in the universe still, but we haven't seen her face.
Yeah.
Right, in the
A long
in the
time.
Glee universe.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
Glee cinematic universe, the
I
GC.
also will say, so I watched this episode last night with friend of the pod, friend of us, Julia Bianco. Lovely, lovely.
Perfect.
And that was kind of nice because I would like pause every 5 minutes and be like, so who is this person? And then I would get like a breeze by like, so
Yeah.
I felt like I had a blue guide throughout.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful for sure. And wait, didn't Julia hate? No, she hated
Emma
Dreads.
Larson, Joe. Yeah.
For some reason I was getting him and White Bread mixed up. What's his name? Ryder.
Blake Jenner, writer. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god, and Minnie Puck, who is literally Minnie Puck.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like they just cast a bunch of look-alike.
Yeah.
They're like, we're going for a Muppet Babies vibe.
The irony of that, because sometimes Jake's voice sounds like anyway. We've gone over it. Although today I didn't mind his voice.
No, it's pretty good.
Not bad.
Yeah. So Kayla, what are you mentioned that you're not happy with your quiz results?
I'm furious with my quiz results. It was literally like my 2 like least favorite characters of the first 2 seasons. I struggle to think that I would have enjoyed them more over a longer period of time. But I was assigned Rachel Berry as my Glee character.
Oof.
Boyfriend is Kurt. Yeah.
Is that the first time we've had a Kurt boyfriend?
No, I think Joey had a Kurt boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And she was
Interesting.
like, that makes sense because all the guys I liked were gay. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
You know, I do have one. This is not actually the first time I have been assigned something Kurt-like. So I went to Christian school, and there was this like new, like young, like religion teacher, and he like, I guess wanted to relate to us or something. And his way of like trying to do that is that he had us watch the episode of Glee where Kurt's dad dies, and then everyone has their little like song and moment about like what their like everyone has their little like what their faith is and what they believe in.
Yes.
And then he made us write essays.
Glee was
Like,
part of a
which-
curriculum.
Yeah. Like,
What?
Yeah, like which Glee character most closely identified your with your like religious beliefs. And the thing about that is, so I wrote like you know, I was just like, whatever, like, I don't care. Like, I just wrote that I was more like Kurt, like, I'm not like religious or anything, or like, you know, spiritual in any sense. And this guy like comes to me after class and he's like, I just want to thank you for your honesty, because, you know, saying that you're an atheist in a Christian school must have been like so incredibly difficult. And I just like, and he started like tearing up a little bit.
Wow. That's bananas.
Shout out T Shings. Mr. Shingler, 9th grade.
Oh my God.
What are we all drinking today? I'm drinking, because I've had a bunch of alcohol and we'll have more alcohol later today. So I'm having a sparkling water lime, a LaCroix.
Very nice. I have sort of the alcoholic and Latino version. I have Topo Chico hard seltzer, strawberry and guava flavor, and it's very good. But it's very expensive, but it is better than like White Claws. So
Interesting. I'm drinking Loverboy, which is sparkling hard tea, and the flavor is orange chai. I was not a fan when I first opened the case, but because I bought it and I don't waste money, I'm going to drink it all. It's grown on me.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
I think it's just like your body doesn't want to extend the effort into continuing disliking something.
Yes, exactly.
It's too much work.
And your brain is working with it, being like, please, we paid money for this.
Good. This is okay.
It's a group effort. I am violently hungover at the moment. I actually have 3 beverages that I'm sort of alternating between. I have a Pamplemousse La Croix, a Diet Coke, and a hazy little Bing IPA. And I gotta be honest, the beer's really doing it. Like, I wish I had woke up this morning and like skipped the coffee and just gone straight into beer. This is like the best I felt all day.
Yeah, hair of the dog. It helps.
Yeah. And by the way, I do blame this episode for that as well.
As you should. Should. Honestly, the more I can blame on Glee, like the better I feel about my life.
Yeah.
So I have a couple fun questions that we don't usually do, but I'm spicing things up.
Ooh.
One is Murder Smash Mary. Iconic teen drama jocks between Sam Evans, Archie Andrews, and Nate Jacobs from Euphoria. I have not watched Euphoria. I just know he's the villain. What would you do?
Wait, who is Sam Evans?
Sam is the blonde guy who wanted to date, who's dating the school nurse.
Cordover Street. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the guy from Euphoria's name?
Nate Jacobs. He's played by the guy from the Kissing Booth movies.
Oh, that guy. Oh.
And I just know there are a lot of memes about how Santana would destroy him.
I mean,
why is he on the list?
Because they're all like teen jocks. Like every teen drama has like the same archetypes.
But 2 of them are from Glee. He's not.
Archie is not from Glee.
That's
my
Riverdale.
God, I was
Archie from Riverdale.
Artie.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, teen jock Artie Abrams.
Wait. And so it's Mary. It's what is it?
Fuck, marry, kill.
Oh, okay. So I personally, I would fuck Archie Andrews. Because I don't think I could have like prolonged conversations with that man. Like that sounds, I wouldn't want to have to wake up and like talk to that person every day. That would be really hard for me. I think I would marry Cordover Street because I'm a huge VP fan as well. You've got to kill Nate Jacobs. Yeah.
I have the same answer.
Me too.
Yeah.
Archie
it's kind of no
is
question.
Archie is hot, but he's so fucking dumb. And Sam is like dumb but charming. So I'd be married to Sam. I'd fuck Archie and I'd murder Nate Jacobs, mainly for being in the Kissing Booth movies.
Well, I mean, I don't actually know Nate Jacobs, so that's why I would murder him, because I don't know him.
same, but
I mean,
also
if you did, you would.
this Teen Vogue article literally says that the headline is Jacob Elordi, that's the actor's name, called Nate in Euphoria an emotional terrorist. So I guess I would murder him just for being an emotional terrorist.
Very
Whoa.
fair.
So, wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And then, based on the episode, how do we feel? Are we Katie's or Gaga's?
Oh, for the love of God.
Which one of the two genders are we?
So this is my thing. It's like, what does it mean?
Everyone in that room automatically agrees on which one they are without knowing what either means. And I'm like, how? How does...
What I sort of extrapolated is that like Gaga is supposed to be like dark and Katy Perry's like light and poppy and fun, but like they're both like just like pop art, like they're like top 30. Like
I was
it's not like
like,
Gaga is that alt.
I thought that
No.
the way that I thought they were going was like Gaga is like not mainstream and Katy is mainstream.
But Gaga is mainstream.
Gaga's very
I know.
And
That's why I was like, it doesn't really. Okay, sure.
It makes no sense. Like they're
Okay,
both pop, like spectacle artists.
based on the people who picked Katy versus Gaga, like, is there any way to discern? Like, okay, so it's Kitty, Tina, Unique, and Jake are all Gagas.
They
Yeah.
have to do a Katy song.
Okay, but why are they Gagas? I don't. What connects them? Nothing.
They're like more extra maybe, but I don't even know. That's like not.
Is Jake extra?
No, but he's
okay. I'm sorry. It's just like also the thing with this is it's like it's not like Katy Perry doesn't have like massive like fucking set pieces when she performs, so it's not like it you can in terms of like the performance, like it's not like that even as a comparison makes sense when they're like, well, we'll just do this Katy thing, but we'll do it like super stripped down or whatever. It's like that doesn't make sense.
I've
it's
seen
not like
Katy Perry in concert. She sang "Thinking of You" while floating on a giant planet.
yeah,
That's extra.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then the other ones is pretty much everyone else is a Katy. And that's like.
Katy is another way. Okay, what the definition of Gaga didn't quite make sense. But Katy was like,
followers.
yeah, basic, you know, like, which is fair because Katy is like
Blaine
basic.
is basic.
Sam is basic. White bread's basic. Marley's basic. I guess Artie's basic.
oh my god, also I did not realize Supergirl was in this show. And it took me because I'm like so used to seeing her blonde. It like took me like a good minute to like figure out that. And then does she not look like a lot like Lively?
I can see that. Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So keep your eyes out on Supergirl. I really want her and Blake Lively to like play cousins in something now.
At one point, Tina is describing Katie's music, and I'm like, honestly, it sounds like you're describing Taylor Swift. She's like, it's kind and Girl Next Door, and I'm like,
I was like,
Taylor Swift.
You're So Gay isn't a very kind song, and Katy Perry definitely did that. That was what
I
one of the
your
boys.
Peacock.
Yeah, like that's
Like, and I love
sexually
Katy Perry,
aggressive.
but like,
I feel like going back to the quote that is behind Cala, I feel like they're using Gaga as a slur, even though it's like a representation.
A representation of what? We don't know.
Don't know.
it's a gender. I got
But I don't know if I should be offended or like happy that someone would put me in either category. I don't know what this episode is telling me.
I have never felt so emotionally connected to Ryder, in which his one line was, "Is there a third option?"
That's true. I don't think I've ever really felt that connected to him. I agree. That's great.
Yeah. So what if you had to pick one? I mean, I'm a Katy. I know that.
But you're going off of the like which definition? Like the basicness?
Yeah, I'm basic. I like sunny music, and I think I listen to more Katy Perry than I do Lady Gaga.
See, I don't really care for art pop era Lady Gaga, which I just have to quickly say, applause. I would have bet money that this song came out like 3 years ago, and it definitely didn't, because they obviously did it on Glee in 2013 when it came out, and I was like, I feel like that was 3 years ago.
So I was like I wrote like notes like as I was like watching, and just right here on the page it says, I forgot that Applause was a song. Like when it came on, I fully it took me like a couple of minutes to be like, I really didn't know.
And it kind of doesn't really even sound like Applause until the chorus, like this cover.
Yeah.
So that kind of threw me off. But I don't know. I guess I would be a Gaga, because I like the era when she sings like Judas, and I think Marry the Night is in that era too, that same album. So I guess I would be a Gaga because I listened to that album a lot.
I would also be a Gaga. Mostly, I think not because I'm extra or anything, but I do like more dark themed music, and her music is definitely darker than Katy Perry. So
I also feel like the lyrics and like the ideas are a little bit more out there than Katy Perry. Like Katy Perry still does like some weird stuff set piece wise, but like I feel like most of her songs are pretty grounded.
Yeah,
like extraterrestrial.
The song Judas is about like the division between like a bad man and a good man, and like this kind of using this like spiritual metaphor. And Katy Perry would never do something that complex. It's like, baby, you're a firework. Baby, I'm thinking of you. Baby,
have you ever been a paper bag or plastic bag?
It's like very like basic.
Have you ever been paper or plastic bag?
Have you ever been recycled?
So Cala, how do you feel?
I think I'm going Gaga, but what I'm basing that on is I love choreography. Like that is and like I do just like I love complex choreography, and I do feel like that is the one thing that like Gaga, like no contest, like has the edge on that. It's like not like Katy Perry doesn't like have a degree of like theatricality with her performances. It's just like I really love dance moves, like and like Gaga's in Bad Romance, just like banging on the floor. It's like fucking fun.
Also, a real quick sidebar on the Katy fashion, especially the one that Marley wore, which we can talk about more later. But it just reminded me a lot of the Sims 3 Katy Perry pack that they made.
Where Katy Perry herself sang in Simlish. Yes.
Also, if anyone wants to just like go on a deep dive into people singing their songs in Simlish, like Luke Bryan, he did that weird like country girl song in Simlish. It's hilarious.
So funny.
Or if you could just find like the album of songs in which it's like real people singing songs in Simlish, fantastic. A great time.
Yeah.
Alyssa's looking it up right now.
I am not.
She's like, need this in my life.
Honestly, I was getting a little bit bored, and Applause was on repeat in my brain.
She's like, I gotta add this to my playlist.
One of the, I will say this, that we do have to talk about that Katy Perry may have killed a nun.
What?
So in Los Angeles, there was this dispute. This convent, I think the archdiocese wanted to sell it to Katy Perry, and the nuns did not want it. And Katy Perry was like trying to make nice with them. She like sang like gospel songs or whatever, and they're like, Katy Perry, you're against everything we stand for.
Why did she want a convent?
It was like she was gonna live in it with Orlando Bloom.
That's so weird. That sounds like something Lady Gaga would do.
Yeah.
So like there's like a tweet, I think it's like a quote where it's like, Katy Perry, please stop, and then the nun like collapses from a heart attack and dies.
Oh boy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Like she was like her start was she was like a church singer. Like she got her start. Like
she has a Christian music album. That's her first album.
Is that a like homage to her past?
Maybe.
She wanted to live in it with Orlando Bloom. Are they
I think
married?
she's gonna turn. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know if
yes,
they're
I think
married. They're together.
They have a
well,
baby
see,
together.
that's why the church wouldn't do it.
Well, the church would do it, but the nuns didn't want it.
That's why.
Yeah.
You could be having a bunch of fun with Orlando Bloom in their convent. They're not allowed to have fun.
That's hollowed ground.
Then it's the problem is that the nuns are all Gagas.
They're like, if you had sang Judas, maybe, but
we love our pop era Gaga, actually.
Yeah, and there's a whole fan theory that Miley Cyrus passed a demon on to Katy Perry and caused her to kill this nun.
I love this.
What?
Wow.
Okay.
This is some serious lore that I was not expecting.
I mean, I say all this. I love Katy Perry. I do not hold her responsible for that nun's death.
The county of Los Angeles has yet to decide.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this episode.
What is it called? I put Katy versus Gaga because
It's
that
Katy
seems to be
or
what it
Gaga.
Or a Gaga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, that really, really common comparison that people make.
Like at one point they're like, Sue is like, we always pitting people against each other, like Jackie O and Marilyn Monroe, Betty and Veronica, Martha Washington,
I did
and someone else.
It was Mary Todd Lincoln versus Martha Washington, Jackie versus Marilyn, and Betty versus Veronica.
Well, like the Betty versus Veronica thing, at least when people are discussing fiction, is like that's actually like a trope, you know.
Right.
And even like the common trope is like it's the Madonna horror complex, like the good girl, bad girl. But Katy Perry and Lady Gaga are both bad girls.
Right.
You heard it here first, folks.
I'm judging. No, but like that's their persona. They've never been like, oh, I'm the sweet, innocent, you know.
Well, it's like both of them. I mean, especially like if you're contextualizing it in terms of like when this episode aired, like kissing a girl was like kind of risque. The concept of like people being like bisexual and like having that like be on mainstream TV. So like Gaga was like a bad girl in that sense, but like so was Katy Perry. Had a whole song about like I kissed a girl and I liked it. Like they're both like within the context of the time, like kind of like sexual deviance. Like you know, like in terms of how people like that, like the like holy shitness of like, yeah.
And they both like played that up. It wasn't just people like horror shaming them or whatever. They were like, oh yeah, I'm like fun and edgy and I squirt whipped cream out of my tits.
They had their own version of like sexual assertiveness. So like, that's like they're not the same, but like they're on the same playing field, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but the thing that also is weird about that is like, to my knowledge, Katy Perry is not like bi or anything. So she really was very specifically like, this is something I'm doing to like kind of make myself seem risque, like make myself seem like kind of a bad girl, versus like Gaga, who like has had like relationships with women and like has Poker Face is like literally a song about like you're with a man but you're like thinking about like you want to be with a woman. So it's like she was doing it very authentically, like it wasn't part of like a persona, like, you know, like a persona or anything. It was like done very genuinely.
So what we're saying is it still doesn't make any sense.
Right.
No sense. Yeah.
And yet the rest of the story is relatively cohesive. This is like the main part that's like, what? But then you just, if you buy into it, you're like, sure. And it's like, oh, it's an episode.
Someone, I was telling my sister that this was like the next episode, and she's like, why are all Glee episodes seem like they're like a themed drag night?
I mean, that's kind of what it ends up being.
Do you think that the Glee writers like go to like Hamburger Mary's and they're like, okay, that's a great idea, like I'm taking down notes?
Yes, they do. And they don't credit those people either.
So
Sorry, I do just want to say I'm like looking down at my notes and it just says 2 minutes and 14 seconds in, I want to kill myself. I don't remember what happened to make me think that. oh wait, no, it's because of they said that the throat explosion performed 10,000 hours of Glee.
Mhm.
It makes no sense. Like, vocal adrenaline was already like cartoonish, like, and over the topness. And so they're trying to like one up that. And I'm like, that literally, like, how do they not go to class? Like, that is child labor then. Like,
And then
I was
also
shook,
like,
guys. It's in Fort Wayne. And I was like, I lived there.
could you imagine that coming out of Fort Wayne? Like,
No.
like that, like if they have like little shots of their performance and they're literally like creatures in smoke on a stage. And it's just like, what is this? This is not a Glee club. This is like really dark Cirque du Soleil or something. Because they're like contortionists.
Yeah. Interpretive dance, maybe? I don't know. It's very strange.
I don't know.
yeah.
What are our storylines?
Okay. We have Kurt. Apparently, he announced he was starting a band in a previous episode. I don't remember
know.
this.
No, I don't remember that either.
It was
So
in
maybe
the like.
they just said that.
They're like, hey, don't you remember that? You don't? Cool, we're moving on.
It was actually in the little clip that like recaps things. And I was like, that never happened.
Okay.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, if all three of us don't think it happened, I think that might have never happened.
Okay,
I
cool.
did
Not-
not.
they,
The previous
they cut it and they forgot to cut it. They
Yeah.
forgot that they cut it.
Oh yeah. They're like, listen, his stepbrother just died. I don't think it's the right time for him to start a band. All right, let's cut it. Oh shit, it's still in the recap for next week.
So he's starting a band. We have the Katy or a Gaga thing, which is Sam trying to impress Penny Owen, the nurse, the adult.
Or college student, but still inappropriate.
That's still an adult. Yeah.
Like he's a high schooler, even though he's 18.
Also that like Darren Chris like says something basically to the effect that like the problem with like why the school nurse doesn't want to date this high school student is because the nurse doesn't see him as a Gaga. Instead of like
yeah, because she likes, it seems to like bad boys and he's too pure. And it's like, what? Why are you encouraging this, Blaine?
At one point, the two of them walk into the auditorium hand in hand. Mr. Schue clocks them holding hands and like
says nothing.
At a point that does nothing. It's just like, okay, like just casual.
If anyone knows about inappropriate relationships with students, it's Schue, and he just stamp of approval right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like after the performance, he like low-fived Sam.
Yeah. So let's see. So there's that. So Sam, and then there's Marley and Jake.
Charlie.
And then there's just kind of the generalness of the competition, like of them trying to do these songs. Just Sue. Oh, Sue's trying to start the Glee Club, I guess.
That happens with
Whatever.
the Katy Gaga thing. It's all kind of lumped together.
So let's quickly talk about New York because whatever.
That's so dumb. Okay, so what is this band? Right? Like he's like, I'm gonna start a band. Cool. He doesn't play an instrument that I know of.
Nope.
We find out that Demi Lovato's character, still don't remember her name. Danny. Because it's just like Demi, but a different set of letters.
Yep.
We find out that she plays guitar.
That's it.
They
have other people play instruments in the background, and I'm like, do you not know how a band works?
She also during that like audition sequence, like specifically when like Adam Lambert comes in. Okay, so many things. But like I couldn't help but notice during that sequence. First of all, the first musical number comes in like at like minute 8. I looked because I was like, this feels like it's taken
4
too long.
songs total.
Yeah.
Secondly, like she's in the background, like very clearly, like not playing the guitar. Like she is doing like a puppet level of like she's like shaking her shoulders like it is some of the worst like guitar pantomiming I've ever seen in my entire life.
And I'm pretty sure Demi Lovato plays guitar.
She does.
Yeah, like I don't get it.
Yeah. Okay, so Kurt wants to start a band. He asks Santana and Danny to be in it. Or Danny's like, oh, can I be in it? I'm a character. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, girls too.
Girls too. And then he asks Rachel, and Rachel's like, you know, I'm busy. And he's like, Finn wouldn't want you to waste your life. But she's like, I need to focus all my energy on Funny Girl. And I'm like, that's super valid. You are a college student who landed a Broadway role. Like,
I'm surprised she's not like literally dropping out of college for the semester. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And Kurt is like, no, you should like not focus on your Broadway career. Instead, you should join this band with 4 other vocalists.
And also this part is happening at work at this weird musical restaurant diner they work at, and he's 5 to 10 minutes late for work. I couldn't remember exactly what she said, but he's late for work, and Rachel's like, you're late, and I'm like, you should be fired. Also, he was kicked out of Adam's Apples when Adam found out that he was engaged, and I'm like, so Adam has been around.
Yep, Adam still exists apparently.
Anyway.
Yeah. Whatever, Kurt.
Yeah.
So he's putting up posters. He spent all his tip money to rent this room, which is the dance room from Niata.
Why would he need to rent it and pay money for it? Like, as a student, can't you just be like, hey, I want to practice a thing and I'm going to rent this room for free?
Yeah.
Like at BU, we could do that if we wanted to. It just had to go through a process and it was free. Makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. And even if you did have to rent it, like, why rent a room? You could do band auditions literally anywhere.
In your apartment, because you can apparently fit the whole fucking band in the apartment.
Yep.
And a rope
the entire
swing.
band, and again, 5 vocalists. An indie band with 5
there are like indie bands where it's literally like 50 people on stage. That's what it reminded me of. But like they're going to be singing covers, not originals, so that's worse.
Yeah, he thought it was going to be a Madonna cover band.
Why?
None of them like compose. Like they're all performers. Like none of them, to my knowledge, like compose music.
Rachel wrote a couple songs.
Yeah, but they slowly got worse.
Yeah. The band, the people who actually play the instruments are yet again nameless.
Yeah,
we don't care. How do you know these people? How do you find these people? Like,
why they are somehow like, I don't know. It feels like the same thing that's happening in the high school.
Mm-hmm.
But that makes no sense because it's supposed to be a band, like, and they're part of it?
Yeah. So, like, if they're not actually in the band, they should be paid for their time to back the band. Whereas, like, in high school, like, those kids are probably getting class credit for it or something, right? So it's like illogical to the point that it's just so upsetting.
I gotta say, like, watching this, I was sort of like, I don't think these people would actually be friends after high school. Like,
no.
I just...
They latched onto each other and went to New York together because they simply needed roommates to help pay rent.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, Rachel goes first, and then Kurt goes and they're like, hey, let's move in together. And then Santana comes like, cool, it's a third person to split rent with. So that's how it happened. And Danny may or may not live there. We don't know.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't because Santana walked her home.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Totally missed that.
Yeah. Santana wants to call their band the Apocalyptics, which is actually a really cool name.
I also love that.
Better than fucking Pamela Lansbury or whatever the
Thank you. I liked the lipsticks one. I liked Nip Slips. I was like, sure, I'm into that.
Also,
Mariola 51, sure.
These are like a group of like 19 to 20-year-olds, and they're like, you know who the true icons are that we like pop icons that like culture like icons we want to name. Pamela Anderson, and this is pre-Pam and Tommy.
Yes. Like as in the Hulu show that is coming out this week or did come out.
Yeah,
It came out.
So yeah, okay. So on that, literally when Rachel, who's been adamant, like, no, I'm not gonna do it, literally is like, you guys should be named Pamela Lansbury or whatever. And they all were like, ooh. And then Kurt explained, and I'm like, no, you need to explain first, because why would anyone buy into that name at first? Because I literally was like, oh, is it a pun on Angela Lansbury? And I'm like, and then he explained it, and I was like, no one's gonna get that.
Again, it sounds like a really bad drag queen.
It does.
Yeah.
But Pamela Lansbury again was performing at Hamburger Mary's, and the Glee writer was like, "I'm fucking nailing this episode!" Like,
Yeah.
He's just like on his laptop.
he's like typing his iPhone notes.
Yeah. So the only person that comes to Kurt's audition is Star Child, which is Adam Lambert, because the show is like, no, we need more characters.
Yeah, we were begging for them.
You guys, I just have to tell you, I had no idea this was Adam Lambert. And I kept thinking to myself, he looks like
familiar.
someone.
Uh-huh.
He looks like someone. And I literally took 15 minutes trying to figure out who this person looked like. Found out that it was Adam Lambert, except I didn't put together that it was the same person. So I was like, it's the guy, the guy that looks like Adam Lambert.
But definitely isn't.
Alyssa, I also did not realize that was Adam Lambert, and like Julia said that it was, and then like took that moment to be like, you know, I didn't really like Adam Lambert on American Idol, but I'm a big fan of him in the Ratatouille musical.
I'm sorry, Julia said that, or you did?
Julia said that. No, Julia said that.
Thank you, Julia, for your commentary. I'm so glad that we have it still, even if you're not in the episode.
I knew too. I was like, he looks like the guy that started off on American Idol.
You nailed it on the head.
So he sings "Marry
He
the
comes
Night."
in wearing like a steampunk-like outfit, but minus a lot of steampunk elements. If
He's
I'm
getting
not-
broke
Anything that
David
was
Bowie.
steampunk?
It's like the hat and like the jacket together.
Goggles. He had goggles too.
Like
Oh,
a way
yes.
less cool David Bowie.
Yeah.
Calling himself Star Child, which is like just all of it like is David Bowie knockoff. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sings "Marry the Night." It's a
Fantastic.
good performance. He's
Yeah.
an amazing vocalist. And Santana is like amazed, and then Kurt's like, I don't hear the right fit. And he's like, you're
What was
too
his
extra.
Yeah, he's extra. I was like, Kurt, you're usually like the most extra person in your group,
That's
with
the thing.
sometimes
He
the
doesn't
exception of Rachel.
want the competition.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
like, but you guys are totally two different things. Like, I could understand if he was like, you kind of have the vibe that we're not going for. Like, if he was like, I'm not about this steampunk glitter look, that would be different. But
Well,
he was like, you're too
kind of what he
extra.
was saying, but like Kurt didn't know what he wanted. He's like, let's start a band. He had no idea what he wanted to call it, no idea what kind of music. Like,
And
Star Child would be a better band name than Pamela Lansbury. Like
yeah. Star Child and the Asteroids, something weird like that. But then that would mean Star Child
and the
is...
Apocalyptics would actually be like
oh my god, I would have listened to that band right now.
right. Like, especially like an indie band, like that would be fucking rad. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
They could be doing fiddle music. I'd be like, yes.
yeah. So he says no, and then Rachel kind of comes up and is like, hey, Santana showed me his audition video, and the fact that you said no because you didn't want to share the lavender spotlight.
Yeah, I'm glad someone called him out for it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want mainstream success. I want people to like me.
Did anyone else think that the speech that he gave Rachel was literally just like Rachel to a T?
Oh,
Like-
interesting. Like he's being Rachel in the moment.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
she's the one that wants everyone to like her. She's the one who wants to go mainstream. She's the one who wants all of these things that he's listing off. It just felt like oddly.
Yes. And they used the justification of, well, my one best friend got a Broadway gig in college and my other friend booked a national commercial. So yeah, of course I want these things now. It's like, I don't know if that's, I mean, I understand it, but it does seem very out of left field.
Well, and Rachel kind of points out, like, you have to be yourself and, like, you're someone who marches to the beat of your own drum. I thought this was actually kind of a nice friendship moment between the two of them. But
one of the only.
Yeah. But, like, and I do get what Kurt is saying. Like, yeah, you want people to accept you, but, like, art isn't good when it's made just to be popular.
Right.
Yeah.
But it makes money.
True. But
so the real question is, do you want to be an artist or do you want to make money?
Well, like, it's not always, because, like, the thing is, like, yes, there's a few, but there is a lot of shit that gets made, but at the end of the day, like, I can't remember who said this, but, like, even though it is a lot of shit that gets made, that still is actually some of the best scripts and stuff that are out there, and, like, some of the best, you know, like, it's not like there's a ton of, like, secret artists, like, hidden, you know, like, I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but it's like, even order to have some mainstream success, it has to be good, and you can't just make good things by, like, oh, what do people like? You have to, like, speak from yourself, you know.
I think that in the Gleeboot, if we were to do this, although I doubt we would, I feel like this storyline would also benefit from having a Katy / Gaga undertone, where, like, Gaga basically became popular because she was really weird, and that gained a lot of traction. So, like, they could have used the argument, like, Rachel could have been like, well, what about Gaga? Like, one of your icons, she was really weird and had this cool, interesting, unique look and different idea about music. And she was, like, a real artist, or is a real artist. And she became really popular. So it's like, it's not impossible.
Like, thematically, that would make so much more sense.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also, like, perfect example. Like, I do think Gaga, in sort of doing her like insane, like, outfits, like her really, like, crazily visual, like, music videos, like, I think, like, kind of, like, brought music videos back into prominence, like, the way that people were just, like, logging on to just see, like, oh my God, like, what is this crazy woman doing?
Yeah.
But, like that was, like, a pop culture, like, moment, very much when, like, music videos had, like, kind of decreased in popularity. They weren't, like, as, you know, like, visually inventive, you know, but, like, was massively successful just doing herself.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think, like, this storyline feels a bit hollow because it's really missing, like, a connection to the wider idea of the episode, and it's a very simple one to wedge in there too.
Yeah.
Super easy.
I feel like they were banking on the fact that it was parallel ideas, but they didn't actually tie them together.
They're like, they'll figure it out. They're smart. It's like, we're smart because we can see the holes.
So he's gonna find Star Child again, and he can't find him because he didn't take his number or anything. I'm like, fucking idiot.
Yeah, when you go to, like, audition, are you supposed to give your contact information too?
Yeah.
Kurt has done auditions before. I don't understand.
And so he finds so Adam Lambert, like, stalks him and shows up at his restaurant.
Wearing
and then they have
normal people clothes.
They have the greatest, like, Clark Kent superhero moment where, like,
yeah, he
like
takes
that
off his glasses. Oh my God,
like,
it's Star Child.
It's you.
Yeah, and so they have this
So stupid.
It was.
They have all, like, a heart to heart, and he's like, I came from New Jersey to join a band like yours. And I'm like, a meaningless no-name band? What?
Like, if there was something, like, if Star Child had seen them do a performance together,
Yeah.
like Danny Santana and Kurt do a performance together, whatever it was they were doing. And then he was like, I have to audition. That would make sense. But otherwise, it's just kind of like, it's fate.
Yeah.
Your
I feel
nameless, no genre band.
They're like making
four
jumps
other
in the storyline.
vocalists.
Yes,
It doesn't
they're
make
ma-
sense.
Yeah. So yeah, Adam Lambert's in the band now. Santana's happy. She tells Kurt to stop flirting. So I wonder if there'll be a love triangle.
Oh, as the French
Yeah.
would say.
As the French would say. So then they're thinking of a name and they suggest all these good names and Kurt's just like, no. And then Rachel's like, I don't know, what about Pamela Lansbury? And he's like, oh my God, it's amazing. And
they
All of
freaked
them
out.
did. All of them.
All
thought
of
it
them
was great.
understood the connotations that Kurt was hearing when he heard the name. Because Rachel was like, I was just kidding. I just threw out a random name. And then he's like, oh, no, you have to be in the band and something else. And he says more words.
And she's like, okay. And then they sing Katy Perry's Roar. So with the rope swing in their apartment. So just imagine yourself, you're at like a indie music club or something, like one of those like kind of small places where they do concerts. And you're like, yeah, the next band is called Pamela Lansbury. And you're like, okay. And then a band gets up there with 5 vocalists and they sing Katy Perry's Roar. And you're just like,
And
what?
and they're all wearing like basic contemporary clothes. Like no one's wearing
Yeah.
anything remotely interesting. And it's like, you guys should have just been a cappella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the end of that shit. The stuff at the school is way more interesting. So they're talking about the bands or the groups that they're facing. And one of them is this throat explosion that like spends 10,000 hours a week.
But Tina's reaction, she's like, oh, why?" And I was like, what is going on? I was like, okay, this is kind of like funny. I was like,
Yeah.
what are they doing?
Well,
oh my
because
God.
then like Blaine knows all about them, and people are like, is this a joke? Like, it's kind of like the heightened Glee reality.
Yes.
You know?
Mhm.
So it was kind of working. And then Will is like, because she's like, we lost our big Gagas, like our big performers. We're a bunch of Katys. And then
Unique is like, excuse me.
Well, their reasoning that they can't win is because they were what did they call it? The
they
outliers?
used to be the underdogs or the outcasts.
The outcasts. That's
As,
what it
as
was.
Marley said.
Outcasts.
Outcast.
Oh, that
And
song
now
sucks.
Throat Explosion is the outcast team, I guess.
Yeah, Throat Explosion is actually the name of my gay porn alter ego.
I was gonna say like it literally sounds like
Yeah. Yeah.
they're like not even being subtle anymore. And
Nope.
like I'm like, whatever, sure, throat explosion.
And then Will is like, well, yeah, we have a bunch of different talents. We have our Katys and our Gagas, and we're gonna be a Katy or a Gaga, and like the Katys are gonna do a Gaga song, and the Gagas are gonna do a Katy song. And Jake is like, do you think he just like makes these up on the spot? And Ryder's like, oh, she's the genius. And I'm like, I think Jake is right.
Jake is 100% right.
That's the second time that it's mentioned in this
Yes.
episode too, because
Because
Kitty,
Kitty
says
says
it.
the same thing. She's like, he makes them up literally like a second before he writes them on the board. It's like, Kitty's right. And then Jake mentions it. I'm like, they're right. Like, why aren't these kids reporting him being like, he's a bad teacher?
Well, because so Artie and Kitty are talking about like, oh, they'll have to be apart for this assignment. And then Becky is like, I had Artie
Becky's
first.
back.
Becky's back at school after bringing a gun. It's
To
fine.
school.
Is Becky in the CIA? Because there's this moment where she gets on like the intercom, and she's like, everyone open your laptops, and then they open it and it just immediately starts
How
playing
did she do
Sam's
it?
video. And right, how did she just like, did she like send out like some kind of like waveform that like just started auto playing it? Like, it's not like she said like, oh, like go to this URL and like a video is gonna start playing. I lost my mind at that. I think that's not how computers work.
That definitely had Pretty Little Liars technology energy.
She's a hacker. She picked up a few skills while she was suspended from school.
Yeah. So she's like, I had already first. You get my sloppy seconds, bam, and then that storyline goes nowhere. So I don't even know why we had this scene. I was expecting Bree to say something when Kitty kissed Artie.
Yeah.
So Kitty kissed Artie. Nothing came of that. Because literally the line Artie says was, are you sure that you're still okay dating someone who's so different from you? Because of course we had to be like, oh, that's right. Kitty was a huge asshole and didn't want to date him at first because he's in a wheelchair. Anyway, and then
why did they have that scene?
To remind us also that Artie did not have sex with Becky, because that's how that scene ends. And I'm like, was that in question? I don't. Sloppy seconds could literally mean like they dated. It doesn't necessarily mean they had sex. What?
Yeah. So okay. So that was something. So Sam is like trying to impress Penny or whatever, and like he opens his locker and he's asking her out, and he has a poster for True Jackson VP.
He approaches his locker, and that's very weird.
Yeah.
But also it's even weirder that he has a True Jackson VP poster.
I loved that story element. I was like, this is great character development.
It was actually really funny because I was like, wait a second, he's like a 30-year-old man. And I was like, no, he's an 18-year-old boy. And then I was like, True Jackson. I was like, I guess he would have been that age, like when it came out. And then I was like, oh, True Jackson. I remember that show. And I completely forgot that I was watching Glee.
It's also funny because it's like, it's not like that show was so like it, because that was like a Nickelodeon show, right? But like
it wasn't
was
super popular. Yes,
right.
Yeah,
it was like so much bigger. So
it wasn't even Hannah Montana, you know, like
so much funnier that like, right, if it had been Hannah Montana, but it is so much funnier that they went through Jackson VP.
And then like a little bit later on, like when Sam's talking to Blaine and Blaine's like, True Jackson VP, he's like, listen, Nickelodeon didn't even understand the genius they had.
It was just like, I love
like
random
within
characters.
universe, everyone is like a massive True Jackson VP's fan. Like within the universe of Glee, like that is like the #1 rated like cable show.
Yes, iCarly who?
Like, it was such a funny like beat, and yes, it points out the absurdity and the danger of him dating this adult even more, because he's still a kid who likes True Jackson VP. It's like,
it also makes me wonder where he's watching it, because streaming services weren't really a thing.
He said he had all the DVDs.
He either bought the DVDs or he rented them from the library and just did not return them.
Ooh, interesting.
So
or he lives in the library and he thinks that's his DVD collection. True Jackson VP.
And so he's like, because he like lists the whole premise of the show.
He like names the characters. I was like, I don't remember their names either. Like, what?
It was so funny. And she's just like, oh, I was going to like a Skrillex concert with my ex-boyfriend.
She has a fake tattoo on her wrist.
And they like he spit in a cup and dumped it on me. And Sam's like, gross. Oh, I guess that's cool.
Yeah, she's like, it was awesome. He's like, yeah, that is cool.
And then she's like, oh, weren't you a male stripper? And he's like, we prefer the term exotic dancer.
Exotic entertainer.
Which was why, like, having no context for that, it was a wild thing to hear.
And then they brought it up so many times this episode. It's like, it made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it was my question. Was that like, okay, theoretically, like he has to be like, if he's doing that, he's got to be like 18. Holy cow.
No, he was like a sophomore in high school when he was
underage.
Yeah. And he
Mhm.
said he lost his virginity while doing it. And you're like,
Oh,
Gross. I literally thought that they kept bringing it up because they were trying to be like, no. It's cool that he's like fucking the school nurse, like he is 18, and you're just like, that's not better. Not better.
mm-mm.
yeah.
Oh, that's all horrifying.
Yeah.
This also assumes that, I mean, we already know that multiple faculty know about this because Sue's brought it up. I think Schue knew about it because
yeah.
Finn was one of the people who went to go get him from Kentucky where he was stripping.
They announced that he was a male stripper at the debate.
Yeah. And so that assumes that like someone was gossiping to Penny about this child
Mhm.
at the school, how he was a male stripper.
And that
no one-
is what made her interested.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Penny's a menace. She's a
Yeah.
crusty flop menace.
She's a cradle robber.
Also, the actor, she was one of the OG cast members in Spring Awakening alongside Leah Michelle. I thought she was familiar and I finally
no.
looked her up.
Who was she?
She played Anna, which I think was like one of the ensemble girls who was
Princesses of Arendelle, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she was one of Vendla's friends.
Another fun Christian school anecdote is that we did do a medley of Spring Awakening when I was in choir. And then we all
What
like
school
looked up the musical. Like it doesn't like it was like a high, so like there was not like we didn't do like any like it didn't say like any like the dirty word. It was like don't do sadness, and you know it was like kind of
Right.
like
No.
it's not like totally fucked was in like the medley, but like then
Would've
we
loved
all
that.
like looked up this musical.
But wait,
And
so
we were
your
like,
choir
wait a minute.
director, did they know about the musical?
She knew. Oh, she was
Oh,
all
so she was
in.
like a little subversive, like, here, guys, here's a little taste of some secular stuff.
Then we weren't allowed to do a Rent medley because that I guess was too far.
I think because Rent involves AIDS, which implies gay people.
Oh,
yeah.
true.
But Spring Awakening does have gay people, but
It does, yeah.
it's Don't Do Sadness, it wouldn't have that context in it.
Yeah,
Now I
there's,
need
like,
to know everything
there's
about this medley.
gay people. It's like okay, it was Don't Do Sadness, and then what Spring and Summer. Okay, I don't know. What else is in it? I know Totally Fucked wasn't in it.
Makes sense.
I don't know. I'll look it up. I'll let you guys know.
This is a flashback to Hannah's song about the dinosaurs that she had to sing in
Oh my
choir.
gosh.
Oh, I need to like find a way to get that link out to the listeners so that they know. Like, people need to know about
sorry.
this.
This is what Mama Who Bore Me was in it. All That's Known was in it.
Mama Who Bore Me?
Yeah, that was the first song. It starts with
no.
Mama Who Bore Me. Then none of these and then it was Don't Do Sadness / Blue Wind and the song Purple Summer. Oh, and Those Who've Known was all in it.
Okay, yeah.
But it wasn't like the whole song because it was like a medley, so it was like spliced together, but it was like a song, you know.
Mama Who Bore Me is really like it's somewhat on. Okay, I'm not going to go into it, but anyway,
Yeah,
this is very interesting. And that was
Yeah.
Kayla's corner.
yeah. So sorry, you guys just got trapped in the just
I'm obsessed.
tornado of mental turmoil that I'm still working through from my high school experience.
A lot of confusing messages.
Yeah.
So Blaine is telling Sam that he needs to be edgier and show her his Gaga side. Not, I don't know, maybe date another high schooler.
Yeah, maybe like report this adult to another faculty member who doesn't have inappropriate relationships with their students.
Which is no one at McKinley. Yeah. So then Sam talks to Becky. He's like, we need to get this message out there. And she basically agrees, so he'll stop talking. Like, it's the flimsiest logic ever.
And he's also like, I know you're like secretly a Gaga or something. He's like, I need you to like tell all the other little monsters. And I'm like, what? Because she's like, who's Lady Gaga? And I'm like, what is this conversation? Then she's like, yeah, I'll do it. Leave me alone.
Yeah, she's like, just shut up.
And then when she goes to like announce it, she's wearing like a Lady Gaga-esque getup. And I was like, so wait, what is the logic here? Like, is she a Gaga person? I'm confused.
Well, at one point we were in Sue's office and she was also wearing something weird. And I was like, why
Yeah.
are they involved? I did not get that.
Can we please talk about that scene in Sue's office?
Yes.
When Jane Lynch said they're doing a Gaga or a Katy, that's the most annoying thing they've ever done.
I said, I agree, Sue. It's in my notes. I agree, Sue.
Oh yeah, because Bree is in Caution Tape.
Why
Yeah.
is she in Caution Tape? Is she part of the Glee Club?
They're like participating in the Glee Club thing. And I'm like, why are they doing this? I don't get it.
Yeah,
don't get
and
it.
she's like, well, you wanted me to cause trouble with the Glee Club, and Jake is a Gaga dating a Katy, so we had to throw some Gaga his way. And so Sue's like, oh, they're doing Katy or Gaga. This is the most annoying thing they've ever done. And
Also,
she
when she first walks in and Sue's like, why are you dressed like a Gaga? And Bree's like, I could ask you the same thing. And they panned her. And she's got this cage on her
Oh,
head.
that was phenomenal.
She's like, I'm about to have a colonoscopy. I've been drinking only saline solution. This prevents me from eating solid foods. I was like, what the fuck?
I loved it.
I was like, okay, this is really funny.
this was actually a pretty funny episode. Like,
Yeah.
like,
I
'cause
was
Sue
really
was just like, oh my
confused.
gosh, I fucking hate this. I was like, same. Like, this is so weird. And so that scene happens. We never see Bree in that outfit again.
No, she looked fantastic. Like when she turned away, she was like full
her
model
abs
mode.
were
I wrote that. I was like, abs though.
no, her stomach was like sculpted.
Chiseled by the
Yeah.
gods. She looked amazing.
Yeah.
But also not an appropriate thing. She should have been banned from the school too, based on the logic of the
Did she
last
get
part of the
suspended?
episode. Yeah. Like, what is, I don't know. I still don't know why she was wearing that. It didn't make sense. She's not in the Glee Club. I'm confused.
So yeah, so then in Sue's office, Becky is in like this Gaga outfit, and Sue's making announcements that she's like, I didn't make the morning announcements because I was busy publicly breastfeeding my baby in a Starbucks. And so she just, I don't even know what the other announcements are, but then Becky is like making
Open your
weird noises
laptops.
and open your
Right.
laptop.
And then
And
again,
we find
all
out
of
she
the
hacked.
devices
Yep.
immediately start playing that video.
Stoner
it
Brett,
drove me nuts.
he's back.
Yes, he
He
has a
Seems to be
line.
fine.
After that bucket hit him in the head.
Yeah.
He opens his laptop, which is covered in duct tape because presumably it is broken. And he's like, I don't understand this video.
I'm like,
It's
I
great.
don't either, Persona Brett.
Emmy award-winning performance for sure.
Chorus
it's
voice
just,
there.
It's just Sam in like a weird plastic mask. And it's like, the Glee Club is no longer relevant. Don't go to their performance at 3:30
And
in the
like
auditorium.
most people,
No one
Follow
shows
the
up
directions.
anyway.
No one, yeah.
They're just like, yeah,
Brett
don't have to tell
showed
me
up because
twice.
he was confused as to what he was supposed to do. So
Penny shows up, and then they do their performance of applause, and they're all in weird costumes except Marley is in like a California Girls swing dance costume. And we'll talk about why Marley's doing what she's doing later.
yeah.
No, I mean, honestly, we need to delve into this scene. So let's go back and talk about what's going on with Marley.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the setup for the Jarly stuff is like, okay, before they start prepping for their Gaga-esque number, Jake is like, hey, what are we doing this weekend? And she's like, oh, we have to get to Breadsticks because we're going to go early because we're going to go see the Julie Andrews like trio movie thing at the library. And Jake's so not into that.
Well, okay, honestly, watching it, I love Julie Andrews, but Sound of Music and Mary Poppins in a row is
They're
like,
both very
Oh,
long
no.
movies.
Oh, no.
I would be
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to skip the first two and I will show it for Princess Diaries.
Sound of Music is like a 3-hour, like, it is
yeah,
long.
And it's
I
a
love
bummer.
that movie, but
It
like,
becomes a bummer.
It,
yeah,
well, yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I love that movie, but like after when I watched Sound of Music, I'm like, oh, I've sat down for a long time. You know, I'm
can we
like,
quickly
yeah,
talk
done.
about I mean, I'm not trying to get political here, but I was talking with my boyfriend's mom about like all the banned book stuff, and she was like looking up different banned books, and the Diary of Anne Frank got banned in some places. One of the reasons is because it was such a bummer.
Oh my god.
What?
I just have to point that out. That someone that said that we should ban the Diary of Anne Frank because it's such a bummer. Anyway.
But Anne would have been a believer.
I'm sure Anne Frank thought so too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure she was real bummed.
God, do you remember when Justin Bieber said that? That was so long ago.
Oh my god, like Anne Frank would have been a believer.
And Anne Frank is like, I had to go through the Holocaust for this.
Anyway.
Yeah. So Marley is like, okay, and so she's like coming up with other ideas, like
Basically other stuff that Jake definitely doesn't want to do because it
But
doesn't
they're-
involve him getting laid.
yeah, but they're all things that are like very normal for like a high school couple to do. And like that is
Yeah.
actually one of the harder, not hard, but like when you're in a couple is like finding new things to do that and also not spending all your money is
Yeah.
definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, these kids don't have jobs. Like
So yeah, he is like upset, and then Bree is like, hey, can you help us choreograph something? And he's like, oh no. And Marley's like, no, but you love dancing, like you're really good at it, like you should do it.
she's being very
She's a
supportive.
great girlfriend. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
seems to very much trust him in that moment that she's like, yeah, go ahead.
Mhm.
Yeah. But then the Gagas are trying to figure out their Katy number, and they're talking about floating in sex with amniotic fluid and like all this insanity. And Jake is like, we've been here for 5 hours. I'm done. And I'm like, yeah, 5 hours, like in the school. Like, what is
Is
the
that when
timeline?
he's dressed as a Thundercat too?
That's later.
No, that's
Oh,
later.
okay.
And he's like, I'm gonna go help the cheerleaders dance or whatever. And Kitty's like, oh my gosh, who asked you to do that? Is that brah? Which because
Did you
of that moment,
predict that?
She channeled Cullen in that moment.
I was like, wait, did Cullen know that was going to happen? Or did this just like they
no, I knew she would. I
Okay,
like had
okay.
seen that clip because my friend in college was dating a girl named Brie, and I'd be like, oh, brah. And yeah, so like she's like, that girl's evil and it's saying something coming from me. And I'm like, yeah, I mean Brie is pretty evil. And then Unique is like, Marley. And then
yeah, she like immediately finds Marley and is like giving her like all the deets, like this is what Kitty said. And she's like trying to, I guess, get Marley to go into the dance studio because this school that's hurting for money clearly has a dance studio. And they like get to the studio, she's watching, and yes, like Jake and Bree are like dancing very like romantically ish, which I'm like, how does that fit into a Cheerios thing anyway? But like Marley's like, no, like I trust him and he either can like be with me or not be with me. And I was like, good for you.
Yeah. Because Unique was trying to get her to like,
she's like, you have to show him
Confront
your
him.
Gaga and like get
yeah.
him interested. And Marley's like, I'm gonna be who I am.
I feel
Yeah,
like
he's
Unique
like-
was trying to get her to be more sexually open or like appealing or something, like try to seduce him in some way.
That was the thing that like was like the within like Supergirl's storyline was like that everyone was just like, no, you need to be more hypersexual. And she's like, I'm kind of doing things on my timeline. And they're like, okay, you're suspended from Glee Club because you won't put on this tardy little bikini. And like, that is the point where I turn off the episode. And I'm
Do
just
it.
like,
Nailed
yo, Matt.
I
Like,
literally
I-
picked this episode because I'm like, Kayla will enjoy the Katy or Gaga stuff, but I'm like, this scene will also piss Kayla off.
It did so much that like I had to finish the rest of it. Like I could not. I was like, I got up and I was just like, Like literally, I wrote it down because Mr. Schue is like, you put your personal agenda above the team, and it's like she's like supposed to be like a fucking like 16-year-old girl.
Yeah,
and
she literally
didn't feel
comfortable.
Yeah, like she didn't feel comfortable like on stage in a bikini, like, and you're like, no, 16-year-old girl, yet again with this problematic like teacher-student relationship in like pandemic of the school, like he's like, you gotta put on this bikini. I lost my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, like, Unique seemed to be wanting her to do that and also like start unnecessary drama, but in the guise of like, I'm being a good friend for telling you this, which I thought was like not great. And
but
then
at least like it was very realistic high schooler.
yes,
Yeah.
that's actually a good point. But then like, so what I don't understand is, okay, maybe I missed it, but did they decide ahead of time that she was going to wear that bikini?
No.
Okay, so my thing is,
not on camera.
You right?
Yeah.
She doesn't have to wear that specific bikini. Gaga has thousands of other looks that are less revealing. She may have been more comfortable in. Like, I don't understand. Like if they had there's just no logic. Like she could have picked any other look and still blended in.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't. I don't get it.
Also, where are they getting these expensive ass costumes?
They're making Tina make them all because she makes the costumes.
Oh,
Right?
true. Who's doing the stage design?
Okay, yeah, because like, I mean, we'll get to the roar sequence, but like, I did have this thought. I was like, what the fuck is the budget for this? For like set deck?
But also, like, so kind of going into like how Marley during the applause number, everyone who's like watching the number and who's in the number is like looking at her like, what are you wearing? Like she literally could have just like not once wore specifically something that looks like Katy Perry and gotten away with it.
Yeah.
And like I feel like the argument for Schue to suspend her was purely because of her not being like sexual, which is obviously super problematic, but like the show could have avoided this by literally pointing out like, well, why didn't you just pick another look?
You could have worn anything else.
Supergirl's arc in this episode is literally just like she's like seems like a very self-assured, like mature young woman, and everyone else is like, you need to start problems and you need to dress like sluttier.
Yeah.
And you need to have sex even if you don't like fully feel like it. And like it was bad for women.
Isn't that just society?
Actually, Glee hates girls.
Yeah.
It was like she seems like, I was like, I would like want to hang out with this girl. She seems like very self-possessed, and everyone's like, no.
Yeah, it's so weird. And also, I want to quickly talk about how when they're all meeting to like they're putting up the stage and stuff, and Sam's like, you guys all have dumb ideas.
Because Molly's like, we can have sparklers, but
be inside them. And Blaine like rubs her arm like, sweetie. I loved that moment so much. And then I don't remember, I think it was Artie who was like, okay, but like, are those strobe lights? Like, what if someone has epilepsy? And Sam's like, okay, is it a seizure or is it like some super cool like breakdancing? And then like the performance happens and I was like, okay, did this episode have an epilepsy warning? Because Jesus, like I was like, this is a lot of flashing lights.
Also, just like side note about the wings, I had this moment where like Sam was wearing that like all day, and I was like, how many people did he just like knock in the head like going down the hall? Like, just, you know, they were like exactly like head level for like most people.
It's also just like another stage full of half naked teenagers, and this is one of two stages, one of three stages. It's a couple performances where that happens, and Schue is watching over it.
Right.
Bad news.
Yeah, and he's like, Sam is like, do you think I'm comfortable up here with my shirt off? And Marley's like, yeah.
You probably are.
And then later they're like in there, like I did have a moment during the roar sequence where I was just like, those loincloths really are loincloths. Like, they were so short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have so many questions when we come to that. Are we gonna get to the Charlie who's pressuring you scene?
Oh my God.
That was fucking bananas.
Yeah, because Jake comes up to her locker. She's in the Katy wig. He's like, I've never seen such a sad Katy. And I'm like, you clearly haven't seen the Thinking of You music video, but okay. And she's like, yeah, I've never been suspended before. I've never even gotten in trouble for anything. And I'm like, imagine being suspended because you wouldn't wear a bikini.
Yeah, no, like she literally should have like been crying and gone to her mom, and her mom's like, what's wrong? She's like, this is what happened. And she would have been like, excuse me?
Yep.
Boom, he's fired.
And
Show
like, yeah,
over.
And the school superintendent is like, this is like the 65th case of like sexual harassment this week at this school.
Against this specific teacher.
In the Glee club. Yeah. So Jake's like, yeah, come back to my place. Like, my mom won't be there.
And you can tell she knows what's up because she's like, oh, okay. Like, that conversation, like, you can tell she's not into it already.
Right. Like, you can literally see, like, her body language, her face is literally like, okay, but I don't really want to do the thing that you're insinuating we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the best part about having sex for the first time is not talking about it openly and just alluding to it and never fully addressing, are you ready for this?
Yep, exactly. Right. Especially as like a teenager, like that's the best way to approach it. We're being sarcastic. I just want to make that very clear.
So like they're back at his place. And it just makes me think of when Rachel and Jesse were making out to Sondheim. I'll never forget that. But so they're making out, and
she's
Jake,
still in her Katy outfit because he's like, "Oh yeah, I really love the wig, and it's creepy. I don't like that."
And so he like keeps reaching down or grabbing her boobs, and she's like, "No." And then eventually she's like, "Jake, stop!" And then he's like,
trying to put his hand up her skirt.
Yeah,
right.
And she pushes it away twice,
and then he goes for the boob.
That's a clear sign of like, no. No.
Yeah.
But then he's like, you're really bumming me out.
Yeah, he's like, what's the point of like spending all this time together if we don't like do these things? Like basically saying, what's the point of dating if we're not having sex? And she's like, she calls him out like, so you're only dating me to have sex with me? And then he's like, other girls I would stop if they didn't let me in their pants in 6 hours. And then she's like, then go be with one of those girls.
The like the amount of just like, I'm like, maybe, I mean, like not in like my personal experience at least, like maybe is that like an accurate way of like how like teenage boys can be, where they're like super like pushy about it? Like I don't know, but it was just like so gross and so
Well, she's like, she's something like, I'm not ready or I don't feel like it. Like, and he's like, well, when will you be ready? Something like that. Like, I've been patient. Yeah. I've been the most patient, he says. And I'm like,
So just like this sense of like entitlement that like, because he was nice to her and waited a little bit, like,
yeah.
So I just rewatched the scene while everyone was doing their break. So I could point out the thing that I was trying to point out. I finally remembered. So when they first like stopped making out, he's literally like, we need to have an open and honest conversation. And like one of the main points of being a boyfriend and girlfriend is that we appreciate and trust each other. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I do trust you, which like she clearly exhibited when she didn't go like all hands on him when he was doing the Cheerios discography stuff. Like, it's just crazy that he's like, you just don't trust me. Like he's literally like trying to plant these ideas in her head that it's clearly her fault for not wanting to have sex. Mm-hmm. And it's real gross because he's literally like, you just don't trust me. You don't care that I'm bummed out because I can't have sex with you. Like, or I can't have sex in general because clearly she's just an object. Anyway. A very insightful comment. I know. We can move on. But it was literally bothering me. I was like, what was that thing?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm satisfied.
This storyline is so gross. And I'm like, do you have condoms on hand? Is she on birth control? Does she know, like, it's Ohio. They probably don't have sex ed. They're probably just like Adam and Eve fucked a snake once or something.
It's also like
that's exactly what I learned.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's like it's super uncomfortable because she's clearly giving the signs of no.
Yeah. Well, it's because she takes the wig off and is like, go be one of those girls then. And she's crying.
Yeah.
He like goes to comfort her and the scene ends. But like okay, there's two levels to unpack here. First is Glee and its lovely racial dynamics of like the virginal white woman and the sexually aggressive black man.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to see that playing on our screens. Love that. Thank you, Ryan Murphy. And then also just like thinking back to season 1 when like Quinn was kind of villainized for not wanting to have sex with Finn. And like,
yeah,
it was kind of a joke that she was super into like purity and abstinence and stuff. And like, I get that stuff can be very toxic, especially when it's like forced on you. But also like, Quinn shouldn't have been made like Quinn was like seen as frigid and like mean because she wouldn't let Finn touch her boobs. Like this is always told in this show from the male perspective, and they're trying to like Marley's definitely painted way more sympathetically than Quinn was.
Yeah.
But like it's still like this expectation that like teenage girls need to put out for their boyfriends. I don't like that.
No.
Don't love that.
Yeah.
So
Anti that.
Immediately goes and like cheats on her. Like, you know.
Yeah, like
But he's clearly objectifying Marley in this situation, and then he immediately just goes and objectifies Bree. And it's like, even if she's into it, she's just a thing to him.
Yeah.
They do it in this weird way too, where they're like trying to put him in the wrong, but they fill in all these little loopholes. So like when she says, then go be with one of those girls, and he goes and does it, that's gonna come back and bite her because she said it. Like, you know, like, so it's her fault.
And like, then like
if I learned anything from Glee, it's that it's always the woman's fault.
True. 100%. But no, like also like when he basically like goes up to Bree and like they agree to it, like she's like, okay, I'm gonna grab my coat because I don't want to get grass stains on my uniform. And he seems like angry almost.
He's like,
and it's
doing
like
it
he's like mad at himself. And
he doesn't even fully seem like excited about it or like into it. And like, is it that he like bought into that thing that like if he doesn't have sex, like his balls will explode? Like, is that where this is coming from? Like, I just
maybe
it's so troubling. And once again, too, the conversation that they have where they're like, let's like go somewhere private, once again is like obscure, like it's not like a discussion. It's like a, you know what I mean? Like they're talking about like around it.
Yeah, I mean, she does say I love private parts, which is pretty close, but yeah.
It's I don't think I've ever heard that phrase uttered until now, and I wish I had never heard it.
So he cheats on Marley with Bree, and then
off camera.
I mean, I didn't want to see it.
Thank God.
No. Yeah. But is Glee gonna do the thing where they're like, actually, they didn't?
Ooh.
Because I could see them doing that. Because
that's a good point.
Just because they're not super great at, following storylines.
Yeah, they did that very like, oh yeah, they agreed to it, but we're never gonna see them like actually like doing that scene because we're not sure what we're gonna do with that yet.
there's a bit of a recap to it, but quickly, let's just talk about the Gagas are like unsure of how they're gonna do a Katy number.
This
Katy
is where they
calls
have Jake in the
Thunder.
the cat's knockoff outfit.
He says he looks like a gay Thundercat.
Which true.
And then
yeah.
he does like a cat thing and he like licks his hand and then his hair. It's weird. Why did he do that?
Don't know.
No one has an answer.
Nobody.
Yeah, I can't explain that. Jacob Artist, who played him, was just like, this will be
I
fun.
will say this show doesn't move me beyond words. That is a derogatory comment.
And then Katy calls Unique King Latifah.
Yeah, loved that. Absolutely loved that.
And Unique's like, I was gonna break into the zoo and steal his live tigers. Plot twist, Lima doesn't have a zoo. Why do you think it did?
Oh my god. And there was also a point, like, I don't remember if it was this scene or an earlier scene, but Tina literally says, like, I want to like whip the tigers and make them slaves or something.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, Tina, what are you talking about?
Then their like decision is to do a Katy song, but do it like super stripped down. They're just like sitting on stools, but it's just like, again, like Katy Perry is a like dynamic performer. Like she's not well known for like
acoustic covers.
Like small, yeah. There's no logic to that I can follow.
I mean, she did just do an acoustic cover of Never Really Over on SNL with someone in a giant mushroom suit, but
right, but they were not wearing giant mushroom suits. They were just on stools wearing their normal clothes.
But it's one of their few performances that looks like an actual show choir rehearsal performance.
Right.
Yeah.
Some realism.
Kind of the other thing with that is like, okay, so the show seems to be positing like, okay, so the reason maybe the Gagas are because they love like the big out there, like push it, whatever, like pushing things visually. And then like the thing that they have to learn is to just focus on the music, which is insane because Lady Gaga is like a songwriter. It's like a very, very like Juilliard educated, like accomplished songwriter.
Mm-hmm. And it posits that like Gaga's so focused on visuals and that like Katy Perry, it doesn't matter if it's focused on visuals or not. Like obviously Blaine previously did an acoustic piano cover of Teenage Dream, which was like great, but like that wasn't the point of that like storyline. And here it seems like, oh, the storyline is that like Katy just focuses on the music and she doesn't really care about visuals. And I'm like, we watched the same Teenage Dream era, right? Like we watched the Extraterrestrials video together, right? We watched the Roar video together, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So they sing Wide Awake. It's actually a really good cover though. I actually really liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly boring.
I did too. I thought it was boring. It was nice, but visually I was like, no. But I think I would listen to it again. But
well, I mean, we're in the Glee universe. I've gotten to the point where if I'm not seeing something interesting, it's boring.
Zone out.
Really, really, really boring. And you know what? This had nothing. Nothing. There was no choreography. Nothing.
But their voices were really good.
There wasn't even like
Cullen, this is a visual media.
There wasn't even like a backdrop where like I keep thinking of like the true colors.
The Windows media player.
Yes. And like they didn't even have anything like that behind them. Or like, yeah, I don't know.
Nothing happened at all.
It was fine. Okay. But then
I do think I started scrolling on Instagram during this thing.
I fast forwarded through it because I had to.
It was so bland. I don't understand why they did the whole song.
That's a good point. I agree with that because literally I was fast forwarding. I was like, oh, this should be over now. Oh, it's not over. I have to keep fast forwarding.
They did the whole, and it's not even as fast as the original. So you're going that much slower Like,
Okay. Agree to disagree, but
no.
yeah. So then, they're all dressed as Katy Perry now, and the guys and the Gaga people are dressed as Gagas. Marley's not there because she's suspended because she's not tardy enough. And Will is like, we all learned something, or I don't even know what he's saying. And then Sue comes in and is like, it's been a long time since I dropped the hammer on the Glee Club, and I'm here to suspend you all because there are rules about what children can and can't wear to school.
And Will's like, oh, you're restarting this again? Because he's like, we have 4 weeks, I think he said, till the competition. Is it nationals?
Yeah.
National. Also,
Or regionals?
she drops this like amazing line about how she has like bobbleheads of her enemies, and they are Charles Kissinger, Drake, and Will Schuster.
I mean, it makes sense. It totally checks out. And so she like, but the thing is, like, she's totally not in the wrong. Like, she has absolutely every right, because she's literally standing in a room full of half-naked teenagers, and then freaking Will Schuster wearing his stupid sweat vest thing, and it's like, she has every right to be like, you guys are totally he's like,
right.
oh, but we've been wearing costumes for 4 years. It's like, yeah, but those
be
costumes
shirtless
like
in school, like you can't, like, and like the girls and like the like those are like, a lot of them are like very like sexualized costumes. She totally has a point. Like, I'm on her team.
As long as Bree is also suspended.
That's the other thing, is like, why didn't Bree get suspended? Like, why was she wearing caution
dragged
tape
into Shue's office, and Sue, like, you know, when she shows up in the caution tape, and Sue is like, why the fuck are you wearing caution tape to school? Like, I don't know that she was necessarily like disciplined, but like Sue was definitely like, okay, well, that's clearly not like the reverse of the Mr. Schue Supergirl, you need to put on a bikini. She's like, girl, like, you cannot be showing up in a caution tape bikini to school.
But like, but why was she in it?
Hannah, we'll never know. Stop asking.
Don't get it.
Because her abs looked amazing.
True.
Like, if truly, if like if that was the reasoning, I'd be like, yeah, and like work.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because Will's like, I have a habit of winning, and she was like, whatever. I don't even know what she says. I'm so bored of their rivalry.
Yeah, she's like, oh, it was never over, and I'm like, I thought it was.
Yeah. And then she's like, you're suspended and you ban kids, you're all suspended too. And then they just sing Roar at her.
Is it at her? Oh, yeah, because they
Tina
started
is
singing
like,
it.
I used to
at
bite
her.
my tongue and hold my breath. And she's like singing at her.
If I had to deal with
right.
a bunch of sweaty teens singing at me, I would lose my mind. Like, it would be like 1,000 times, like, that experience would be like 1,000 times worse than like when you're in a restaurant and they're like singing happy birthday and you're just like, I don't know what to do with my face.
Yeah. And so quickly to talk about the Roar performance on behalf of the teens, they're all half naked again. And so here's my question. Is this actually a performance that they're practicing, or is this in Will Schuster's mind?
Yikes.
Because he's watching on the stage, like, could this be his like dream sequence? Like, is it a collective dream sequence? Sure. But still, Schue is the one watching it.
Penny's watching it too. Because at some point, I forgot to say this, Penny agreed to go out with Sam and said,
and they kissed.
And they kissed multiple times very aggressively in the school.
Oh, God.
I actually thought the scene where they kissed Sam was really funny because he like brushes himself off. He's like, calm down, Sam.
That's the thing that kind of sucked about it, is like, when you did that, I was like, well, that's just like fucking cute. The concept that you would just like kiss someone and then be like, oh, I like them so much. Like, this is so cute. Like, I gotta like take a little deep breath. I was like, that's cute. But like within the context of this moment,
exactly.
The reason that you should be pulling back is and like breathing is like horror, because like
yes. Yeah, so it was like a cute acting moment, but you just have to put it in a different world where they're both the same age and neither of them is in high school.
Which is like the real world, because I think those actors are on the same age.
Yeah.
But she's like, oh, I'm a total Katy deep down. Like, I'm not a Gaga, I am basic. And he's like, okay. So then they kiss and whatever. And yeah, and they're doing Roar, and all the boys, except for Artie. Artie's in an explorer costume, and all the boys are in these like very skimpy loincloths.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they literally go from where like the V starts, you know, when they have like nice abs, the V. So like right where that like kind of like right before the other stuff. And then literally at like, I don't know, 2 inches down the thigh. That's how small these things are. And they're jumping around. And I'm like, oh God, I'm going to see something. And then the girls are wearing, with the exception of Unique, I think Unique has kind of like a
top.
t-shirt type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other girls are wearing
They're
like
wearing, like grass skirts and like a leopard print bikini top kind of.
Which
Yeah,
is what
and I'm
Katy
like-
Perry wore in the music video.
which,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But also she was a consenting adult and these are teenagers. Oh,
Right. And if you say no, Mr. Schue, I don't want to wear the bikini, you get suspended.
that's true. They got pressured into doing it.
Well,
And then there's a fucking rope swing again. What?
Yeah.
Like,
and
I get
Artie
it's part of
swings
the
on
music.
the swing in his wheelchair and it doesn't fall.
I
Yep.
missed that.
That was, yeah.
Wow.
I remember seeing that and being like, exactly how does that work? Thank you.
And then this goes back and forth between the New York and the line, like the high school,
Yeah.
and they're all like on a different like rope swing. And I'm like, why? Like I get it, but why? And this is not logical.
And
And then-
Starchild's in the band
With 5 vocalists.
with they all
And-
get like a single line basically.
Yeah. And then Marley comes in to watch the performance and Jake kind of gives a wave and then Bree stands next to her and is all like smug.
Yeah, she's like,
Um,
that's my man now.
yeah.
Yeah, and like he looks like very guilty. It's like, you know, blah blah blah, a real acting moment. I would
Guess-
say about like the power of just like this song and maybe like the hypnotic just like quality of Glee is like as we were wrapping up, I was like, as the episode was like wrapping up, I was like, I'd watch another episode. Like,
Isn't it? It's like
that, like I just told you I had to turn off because it made me so viscerally enraged. But like in that
That's a good
sense,
point.
like, it is emotionally evocative. Like,
yeah, and you're like, oh, now I kind of want to know what happens next. And then like you get into it and you're like, no, I didn't want to know this.
Yeah. It's a fun performance. It makes no sense. It goes along with Mr. Schue's pattern of he doesn't discipline people when they get violent. He doesn't discipline people when they insult each other. He only disciplines them when they defy him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
Which narcissist?
he should not be an educate. Like it's just like
No.
He should not be free. You know,
He
like,
should be in prison.
yeah. And not just like like a real prison. He should be in like an evil tower. You know, like
This is
Surrounded
the
by a
world of
dragon.
Glee, so
yeah.
yeah.
Like Fiona shouldn't have had more security than him, you know, like
Yeah. Shrek reference.
yes. Found out during this funeral week that my cousin has a Shrek tapestry and I'm very proud of her.
I thought you were gonna say Shrek tattoo.
I thought tattoo as well. I was
And I
really.
was like, okay.
I can't tell if I'm
Wow.
like
How did you find
relieved
that
or
one out?
disappointed. It's like kind of like a little bit of both.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, I have a Shrek tapestry. Don't know how I got it. Just ended up in my apartment.
Mhm.
So okay, that's the end of the episode, right? That means it's Tina time.
Did you count?
3 lines.
No, she
I
had
don't know.
more.
No, she
I
had
can't-
like 8 to 10, but I
Really?
wasn't counting. Yeah.
I didn't
It
pay
was
attention.
something
Yeah,
right.
I have 8 counted. Yeah.
I could do a pretty
Fascinating.
good guess, but I can't keep track during the episode.
That's what makes Tina time so special.
Okay, so let's talk MVPs and LVPs. Kayla, who is your
Yeah.
least valuable player?
In this episode, it's Huck Jr.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Jake.
Yeah.
I said the same thing. Trying to pressuring Marley, trying to gaslight her, objectifying Bree. All around not great.
Yeah.
Also honorable mention Schue. because you gotta.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Puckerman as well. Jake?
Yeah, Jake. I'm going with Jake. With shout outs to Mr. Schue and to Kurt, because Kurt kind of sucked this episode.
Yeah, he had no idea what he wanted his band to be, yet he was still holding auditions already. Like, what?
Fuck Pamela Lansbury. Like, no one wants that.
The fact that you I can't, that you had Star Child and the Apocalypse like at your fingertips and you went. Like, minus a billion points for artistic vision.
Yeah.
So, Kayla, who is your MVP? Who is your favorite character?
Honestly, this week, Jane Lynch is, you know what? She is enforcing, and she came down hard, but she had a great line about how annoying Glee Club is, and that she really rocked that face cage.
and she did the bare minimum for being a principal. So without being sometimes she's like, yes, I have power, I'm going to use it this way, but it was no, this all makes sense, checks out.
She was right. Sylvester's right.
I'm going with Marley for standing up for herself, pretty much against all odds. She got on so many fronts. Poor girl. She should just leave this Glee Club. Also, why is Ryder still in the Glee Club? He said he was gonna quit, and then he's still fucking there.
Yep.
I think the writers forgot about that line.
Honestly,
and they forgot about the whole situation.
Well, they were too busy getting distracted by the mimosas at Hamburger Mary's. That's what I'm saying. This is why you shouldn't be writing your screenplays at Drag Brunch.
I'm gonna go with Rachel for actually giving a good pep talk. It was not really, I don't know if I bought it between the two of them, the whole scene, but if you did buy it and if it did work, she was doing a good job. Good for her.
Yeah, no, and it's been a long time since Rachel has been anywhere near the MVP slot. So I'm going with Sam for his love of True Jackson VP. And he acted very well. Court Overture was doing a really good job. Even though I was mad when he was yelling at Marley, but he acted it well at least. So so music, 4 songs, 2 Gagas, Marry the Night and Applause, 2 Katys, Wide Awake and Roar. Kayla, what was your least favorite song?
Oh, Applause. Forgot that it's just a weird choice. It was a weird choice. It was not very, it took me a while. And granted, it's not a song I'm maybe that familiar with, but it just it wasn't, it was sort of discombobulated, and it took me a minute to catch up with that's what it was,
Yeah, I second that for pretty much all the same reasons. It was just kind of cacophonous, especially also in the way they shot it, and I wasn't thrilled by the visuals either.
I'm gonna go with Wide Awake because it was so fucking boring. And at least when I watched Applause, it was kind of interesting.
You had something to look at.
Watching a train wreck is interesting. But at least there's something there and you're not staring at a wall.
What was my least favorite? I love Katy and I love Gaga. I was actually kind of bored in Marry the Night. Hot take. Adam Lambert, this was a tough choice. None of the performances were I hate this, which often happens in Glee. Adam Lambert has a great voice, but it was just kind of, I think it's the song, has some cool moments, but it doesn't get me. So it was fine, but it was my favorite. Kayla, what was your favorite song?
Roar. It was it is like it was a strong finish. Like again, that set design was like bonkers. Like it made me want to just let the next episode play, but then I like have laundry to do.
I'm going with Marry the Night because I would actually listen to it again. I actually thought the cover was really good. But yeah, I'll agree. Like kind of like the performance, I think I kind of wish they hadn't done the whole song because it kind of got old, the performance itself, because it was kind of the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So
I'm also going with Marry the Night. I liked the song out of all of them the most. I liked the cover the most. And I was very, very engaged because I was trying to figure out who the fuck was on the screen.
The Adam Lambert lookalike.
Yes.
You know, as much as I love Darren Criss in that loincloth, I'm going with Wide Awake. I thought I liked the stripped down performance. I liked the audio. And like, I think it's better than the original because Wide Awake is not the best Katy Perry song.
Right.
I prefer the mashup someone did with Carly Rae Jepsen's Roses in that song. And that song was taken off YouTube and I can't find it and I'm really depressed. But yeah, I liked the like Kitty and Unique had some really good like vocal elements to it. Yeah.
I do think that like they did really well, like the because in the song it's got like it's just like Katy Perry and there's like the echoing like Wide Awake and then like having them come in with like the different vocalists like it really well. Like I would listen to that, you know. It was not like minus points for like visual presentation, but
All right. So that brings us to the end of this episode. Kayla, thank you so much for coming on.
thank you guys for having me. This was so fun. I've had a great time. Yeah.
Well, you can follow Gleeboot on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We are at Gleeboot Pod. You can also follow us on Tumblr, gleebootpod.tumblr.com.
You can follow me on Instagram at Cullen Ever After. And if you want to watch my old YouTube videos, the channel is YABOI Ryan.
And you can follow me on Instagram at a.m.swearingen for some art content.
Yay.
Yay. So what is next week? I don't even know.
Twerk.
Oh, it's the end of Twerk. No.
I came prepared for that one.
This is where he sings Blurred Lines with children, I think.
Oh, no.
Jesus.
Oh, God.
Just when he
Oh,
thought he couldn't
God.
get any worse. Here he is.
Oh, no. This is really going to test me. It's really going to test
Oh,
me.
it's testing me. All right, so while you think about that,
Bye.
Gleeboot.